Suspense. In the diners and club cars of America's finest trains, wherever the knowing traveler seeks the last word in luxury, the first word in wines is Cresta, Blanca. Cresta Blanca. Cresta Blanca. Yes, Cresta Blanca California wine is the choice among those who set today's mode in travel as well as gracious living. So enrich your dining, distinguish your entertaining with Cresta Blanca. When you pour Cresta Blanca Burgundy, Sauterne, or any Cresta Blanca selection, you enjoy the finest in wine. Shenley's Cresta Blanca Wine Company, Livermore, California.
And now, Shenley brings you radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense. Presented by Roma Wines. That's R-O-M-A. Roma Wines, for your everyday enjoyment.
Tonight, Roma Wines of Fresno, California, bring you Mr. John Lund in Murder Aboard the Alphabet, a suspense play produced, edited, and directed for Shenley by William Spear.
It is well past midnight now, and I write these words so that other men may know the full story of that ill-fated voyage of the deep-sea tug, Alphabet. Ours was not a large vessel, but sturdily built for its task. And though it seems an age, it was only a little over 6 months ago that we sailed from Liverpool, England, bound out across the North Atlantic to deliver our ship to her new owners, a salvage firm of Boston, Massachusetts.
Stand by to cast off.
We put out with a reduced complement, just a handful of men, 12 in all. We were a new crew, sent on board for this journey over the deep sea lanes. And I sailed as chief officer, under the command of Captain Godfrey Walker, second mate Harvey Goodrum, and chief engineer Alec McTavish being the other members of our small saloon. I remember we departed on a cold, wet day, with the fog lying low over Birkenhead, and the northwest wind blowing fresh in our teeth.
On a port!
As the drab gray of the Liverpool dockside dropped back into the soaking mists, I doubt if any man aboard could have foretold what lay ahead over those 3,000 miles of heaving sea. When we had cleared the lightship, I went into the wheelhouse, where Captain Walker searched the channel ahead, his deep black eyes staring out from under his shaggy eyebrows. I saw him, his huge frame bundled in a salt-stained greatcoat.
Ah, Mr. Marshland, everything secured for sea?
Yes, sir. Everything on deck is lashed down as tight as a whistle.
Good, good. We may get a dirty crossing this time of the year.
Oh, she'll be uncomfortable, sir. When it comes to ships, I'm used to something a little bigger.
You're on no 10,000-tonner now, mister. If we hit it heavy, there'll be many a man on board who'll wish he'd never left the dockside.
Oh, I think the crew can take it, sir.
Maybe, mister, maybe. A few days out and we'll see. Keep it to a course, quartermaster. All right, Mr. Marshland, you can take her now.
Very good, sir.
Your course is south 70 west.
South 70 west, sir.
See these helmsmen keep her on the course. I'll be back in my cabin if you want.
Aye, aye, sir.
Queer toe, the skipper, sir.
Is he?
Aye. Fair gives me the creeps, he does.
Oh, he's probably harmless enough. Used to bigger commands than this, I imagine.
But I'd keep a watch on him, sir, if I was you.
Keep a watch on him. Why?
Why? If you don't know now, sir, you'll find out soon enough.
South 70 west. Check your course.
South 70 west it is, sir.
Aye, who's there?
Marshland, sir. You sent for me?
Oh, yes. Come in, mister. Come in. Take a chair, mister.
Thank you, sir.
No, not that one. Over there.
Oh, certainly, sir. Is there anything wrong?
No. Nothing's wrong. I just want to talk to you, discuss the affairs of the ship with you, give you some idea of what I expect. Oh, here, cigarette?
Oh, thank you.
Oh, by the way, you will not use that ashtray on your right. No, you will not use it. You may place your ash carefully on the other one.
This one?
Yes, that one. Tell me, how long since you had your last berth, mister?
Why, it's been some time, sir.
Oh. Port captain says you know me.
Well, only by reputation, sir.
Would it surprise you to learn that I know something of you by reputation, mister?
Why, I don't exactly...
We ought to make quite a pair, mister, quite a pair. Oh, well, no matter. Now, I shall tell you the reason I summoned you to my cabin, Mr. Marshall. You will find, if you do not know already, that I have very definite ways I wish things to be done. Very definite ways. First of all, I demand complete, unquestioning obedience.
Well, of course, sir. I'm sure you'll get the fullest cooperation from myself and the crew.
Good. I want that to be perfectly clear. I also insist that your supervision of the work on this ship be done in a certain manner I shall prescribe. All items of work will be carried out in alphabetical order.
Alphabetical order, sir?
Precisely. Starting with A and carrying through to Z.
I'm afraid I don't understand, sir.
I think my meaning is perfectly clear. If the hands are painting ship, they will start with the alleyways and all other items beginning with A. Then the bulkheads, then the decks, and so forth. You understand me now, mister?
Oh, yes, sir. I think I understand. But I'm afraid I don't quite see your reason.
Mr. Marshall, my reasons are not to be questioned. You will remember, while I'm in command of this vessel, I hold the power of life and death. Well, sir?
He was sitting across from me on the small settee of his cabin, his massive face half hidden in the shadows, his eyes piercing into mine. In the nearness of him, I could see the bloodshot veins like thin red tracings against the white. The man was mad. Higgins was right. He was mad.
Yes, life and death.
I looked about his cabin. There was something inhuman in its ordered neatness, as if the warmth of man had not touched it. I saw the books stacked evenly in the bookshelf. I saw the titles arranged in alphabetical order. It was a pattern complete in itself. The desk, the bunk, immaculate. Not a wrinkle or speck of dust visible to the naked eye. On the bulkhead were 4 photographs, enlargements of outdoor scenes. With a start, I realized they, too, were in perfect order, arranged according to the seasons, from left to right. Spring, summer, autumn, winter. My eyes darted about me again, and on the shelf above his bunk, I saw 3 cameras. They also fitted the pattern. The smallest on the left, the largest on the right. I remembered the chair and the ashtray, and turned towards him as he spoke again.
Is that perfectly clear, Mr. Marshall?
Yes, sir. Perfectly clear.
Good. Now, one final thing. I insist that the quartermasters taking the wheel appear in sequence of the first letter of their surnames.
But, sir, that will mean rearranging the watches. Surely there's...
Silence! You will do as I order.
Very good, sir. The watches will be changed.
That's better, much better. Well, mister, now that we understand one another, we shall cease talking about the ship. Aha! I see you've noticed my photographs.
Well, I can't say I know much about it, sir, but I'd say they're excellent.
Of course they're excellent. I took them myself, a hobby of mine. You may have noticed I have 3 cameras. 2 of them are of German make, the other American. The medium-sized one in the middle I use with infrared film, comparatively recent development. The other 2 I use for general purposes. Are you interested in photography, Mr. Marshall?
Well, I can't say I am particularly, sir. I've never done anything like that for a hobby.
Very well. If you're not interested, you may go.
Oh, I didn't mean that I wasn't...
That is an order, Mr. Marshall, and you will now go.
left him then and stumbled into the cold darkness outside, the thoughts tumbling unendingly through my head as I made my way to my cabin. We were pushing our way over the restless waters of the North Atlantic with a madman in command. On the morning of the third day, the second officer came running onto the bridge and flung himself excitedly into the wheelhouse.
Mr. Marshland, I'd like a word with you.
Well, go ahead, Goodrum. What is it?
Would you come outside? I can't tell you here.
Certainly. Now, what in the world is the matter with you?
It's the wireless operator, sir. Abercrombie. He's gone.
You mean he's disappeared? Off the ship?
Disappeared? Maybe. But I wouldn't wonder if there was a better name for it than that, sir.
What do you mean?
I mean murder.
Abercrombie was gone. Vanished without a trace from the decks of the Alphabet. And although I didn't have the feeling myself, there was an uneasiness within the crew now. They seemed furtive, frightened, and they quietly drifted out of sight whenever the captain made an appearance on the deck. You could see they feared him, and somehow connected his madness with the disappearance of the wireless operator. That night, I stood in the darkness of the wheelhouse, the faint light from the binnacle shining on the face of Higgins as he stood his trick at the wheel.
It's a rum go, sir. That Abercrombie didn't just fall over the side by himself. Mark my words on that.
Oh, come now, Higgins. Many a man has disappeared from shipboard, swept over the side by a sea.
Ah, sir, on a stormy night that may be. But last night was a pretty quiet one. Just a little kiss of rain. Done in he was, sir.
But why? What reason?
Reason? Ah, no one had no reason, sir. Except maybe the queer one.
The queer one?
Aye, the skipper, sir.
Good heavens, man. Are you accusing the captain of...
He's not a normal man, sir.
I wouldn't be too loud about the captain, Higgins. You can't accuse people without evidence.
I'll keep me tongue. But the skipper's off his rocker. You know that as well as I do, sir.
Oh, he's got some set ideas about things, but that doesn't...
Alphabetical ideas, sir?
Well, yes, but...
Ain't you thought of this, sir? His name, Abercrombie.
What of it?
Beginning with a hay. The first letter of the alphabet. Abercrombie was the first. But he won't be the last, sir. He won't be the last.
For Suspense, Roma Wines are bringing you Mr. John Lund in Murder Aboard the Alphabet. Roma Wines' presentation tonight in radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense.
Suspense, radio's outstanding theater of thrills, is being brought to you by Roma. That's R-O-M-A. Roma Wines, America's largest selling wines. When it's 90 in the shade and there's no shade, that's the time to enjoy tall, tinkling glasses of ice-cold Roma wine and soda. Yes, treat your family and friends to the thirst-quenching goodness of Roma wine and soda. So simple. Half-filled tall glasses with any Roma wine, such as robust Roma Burgundy or delicate Roma Sauterne. Fill up with cracked ice and soda, sweeten to taste. Then take a long, cooling sip and smile. You'll discover why Roma wine and soda is so cool to come home to, especially when the weatherman says warmer. And remember, for better taste, always enjoy Roma wines. That's R-O-M-A, Roma Wines, the greatest name in wines.
And now, Roma Wines bring back to our Hollywood soundstage John Lund as First Mate Marshland and Joseph Kearns as Captain Walker in Murder Aboard the Alphabet. A play well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Needless to say, the conclusions of the men were no surprise to me. But I didn't feel the time was ripe for further action. On the evening of the following day, the barometer started dropping, and next morning saw the low gray clouds scudding swiftly before the wind, and the Alphabet laboring heavily in the rising sea. It was at 8 bells of the morning watch, the 6th day at sea. Who's there?
It's McTavish, Mr. Mate.
Oh, come in, Chief. Take a chair, Chief. Well, what is it? You look bothered.
Butterfield, mister. He's lost.
Lost?
Aye.
Are you sure, McTavish?
Och, aye, I'm sure enough. We've searched for him all around the ship. There's nae a trace, mister.
Have you informed the captain?
Ah, the old man. Didn't you think he knows it?
Come on.
Mister?
There's another man gone, sir. Butterfield.
Butterfield, eh?
Aye, sir.
How long have you known this, Mr. Marshall?
The chief engineer informed me only a few moments ago, sir.
Are you sure of this, Mr. McTavish?
Aye, I'm sure. There's nae a trace of him anywhere aboard the ship.
Very well, Mr. McTavish, you may go. I wish to speak to the chief officer alone.
What about Butterfield, sir?
Go, Mr. McTavish. That's an order.
Aye, sir. I'll be off.
Well, Mr. Marshall?
I'm afraid this is beyond me, sir.
No, I'm not referring to the engineer, mister. He's obviously disappeared. There's nothing we can do about it. Well, why are you standing? Why don't you sit down?
Well, but thank you, sir.
Yes, it's Thursday. You may sit in the armchair.
Thank you.
Well, what do you think of my ship now? You still find it uncomfortable?
Oh, no, sir. I like her very well. I thought a long time before I shipped aboard.
Oh, you did, eh, mister, huh? Well, she's small, but then any ship's a ship, eh? I'd like something a little more, but then the sea is the lady that counts. Am I right?
That's right, sir.
You love her. You love her very much, don't you, Marshal?
I do. Yes, I do.
You're young, but you love her more than anything?
More than anything.
More than is natural?
Captain.
Now you're seated. Would you like to inspect my cameras and tell me what you think of them?
Well, I'm afraid I don't know a great deal about that sort of thing, sir.
Oh, you know nothing about them. Very good, you may leave my cabin.
Certainly, sir. I shall look into the Butterfield matter.
He's left this ship, mister. You're only wasting your time. Now go.
For the second time, I left the cabin of that strange man. I left him alone with his madness, and steadying myself against the roll of the ship, walked the deck, thinking my own thoughts. It was that night that Higgins came to me in my cabin. I bade him enter, and he settled his wizened body down upon my armchair. I was lying in my bunk, watching him as he sat there, awkwardly twisting his cap in his hands.
It's an unusual request I have, sir. Now, I hope I can speak in confidence, like.
Go on, Higgins. Whatever you have to say will be just between the two of us.
Well, sir, we think the skipper should be put away, sir.
Put away? What do you mean?
Locked up, sir, where he can't harm us.
You know that's mutiny.
It's mutiny, but Mr. Marshland, he'll murder us all. Abercrombie, Butterfield. He'll go clear on down the alphabet if we don't stop him.
There's no proof.
Well, the lads are sure enough.
Are they?
Just give us the word, sir, and we'll help you. We'll put him away.
Very well, Higgins. Keep it among yourselves, but you can tell the men this. If there's any more trouble, I'll take matters into my own hands. You can rest assured of it.
Thank you, sir. It may be mutiny, but there ain't a court in the world as ever would convict you at it.
No. No, Higgins, I don't think there is. It had to be done very carefully. And for quite a while, I lay back upon my bunk, thinking of what Higgins had said. It would be risky, but the men were behind me. That would more than sway the balance. Higgins was right. Any court of law would see the wisdom of my action. They would never convict for mutiny, and Captain Walker would be locked away forever. We continued on our way, and in the howl of the wind and the long seas, you could sense the cold hand of fear that had settled over the alphabet. By the evening of the 7th day, we stood well out on our great circle track, more than halfway between Liverpool and Boston. We plunged through dirty seas, rising to each crest and falling to the trough below, with the water curling green over the flare of our bluff bows. But we made fair time, and the knot slipped steadily astern. It was during the inky blackness of that night that death struck again on the decks of the Alphabet, and another member of our dwindling band disappeared into the unknown. Abercrombie, Butterfield, and now the third man. His name was Chadwick.
Who's that? Oh, good evening, sir. Dirty weather, sir. Well, I'll be getting below, sir. Would you please let me by? I want to go below. No!
You clumsy fool.
You dropped something, sir.
Never mind, I'll get it.
There. Up rather late, aren't you, Mr. Marshland?
You are too, aren't you, Captain? I thought I heard a scream.
Oh, did you now, mister? Did you?
We're all here, sir.
You all know why you're here.
Yes, sir. The lads know.
We're with you, mister.
We'll stop his tricks, we will.
Yes.
Good. Now we must do this quietly and quickly. There must be no bungling, understand?
Yes, sir.
All right. Here goes.
Yes?
Captain Walker, will you come on deck a minute?
Well, mister, what is it you want?
Come out here, sir. I want to show you something.
Keep going! Mr. Marshland!
Never mind that, man. Captain, stay where you are. This gun is loaded.
So now it's mutiny. Marshland, you'd better...
Shut up. One move and I'll shoot.
Aye, and you'll get my knife in your gizzard. Mr. Marshland, he's the skipper now.
You swing for this, Marshland. You and all the rest.
Do you really think they'll hang a mate for mutiny when they can hang a captain for murder? We sailed into Boston Harbor with Captain Walker lashed securely to a chair in his cabin. After the first brief struggle, he had grown quieter, and during the last days of our voyage, he had just sat there, silently, saying nothing, a strange, mad smile leering from his lips. We arrived in Boston late in the afternoon, and as we sailed up the harbor, we hoisted the international signal calling for the harbor police. After we had docked alongside, I went up to his cabin to ensure that all was in readiness for the arrival of the police. And as I stood over him, bound there in his chair, his eyes seemed to mock me, his smile taunting me.
So, Mr. Marshland, this is to be the success of your little plan, eh?
I have nothing to say to you, Captain. The police will be aboard at any moment.
You think I'm mad, don't you? Well, maybe I am. But you've bungled it badly, mister. You've bungled it very badly.
Have I?
Who's that?
Police?
Police, come in, come in.
Officer, this man is...
Yes, you've bungled it, Mr. Marshland. Why weren't you content to let me be with my madness, as I was content to let you be with yours? Oh, we'd have made quite a pair, as I told you, if you hadn't bungled it.
What are you talking about?
Oh, I know all about you, mister. Under a bit of a cloud, eh? Haven't shipped for quite a while. Not the first vessel you've been on where men have disappeared in the black of the night, eh? Oh, but I wouldn't have cared. No, I liked your methods, businesslike. By the letters, by the alphabet.
You are mad. Take him away, officer.
Yes, mad, quite. But you should have taken more interest in my photography, mister. My infrared film, for instance. You can take pictures on the darkest night. Would I have one, mister? An excellent likeness.
A likeness?
Of you, mister. The night you pushed Chadwick over the side.
The police have been very understanding. They could readily understand how a man could hate and fear the sea and yet love it like a woman. Love it enough to follow it and hunger for it and make every sacrifice. Even human sacrifice. But now they say they must send me away to a place where the sea can no longer torture me. A place of no land or sea or wind or rain, but only rest.
This time, my son, can you pray?
Yes, to the sea. Only to the sea.
Suspense.
Murder Aboard the Alphabet, starring John Lund, presented by Roma Wines. That's R-O-M-A. Those better-tasting Roma wines, America's favorite wines. Yes, Roma wines taste better because Roma brings you the captured natural richness of California's choicest grapes, gently pressed and guided, unhurriedly, with ancient skills and America's greatest winemaking resources to tempting taste luxury. These better-tasting Roma wines are placed with mellow Roma wines of years before, and from these, the world's greatest wine reserves, Roma later selects for your enjoyment. This weekend, share with your friends the hospitality of delicious Roma California wine. Before dinner, serve nut-like Roma sherry. After dinner, enjoy rich, fruity Roma port. Yes, the better taste of choice Roma wines tells you why Roma, that's R-O-M-A, Roma wines are enjoyed by more Americans than any other wines.
John Lund will soon be seen in Paramount's 36-star production, Variety Girl. Tonight's suspense play was by Charles Turrell. Next Thursday, same time, you will hear Lloyd Nolan as star of Suspense. Produced and directed by William Spear for the Roma Wine Company of Fresno, California. Don't forget, next week, Suspense will present Lloyd Nolan. The following week, Edmund O'Brien. Make it a point to listen each Thursday to Suspense, radio's outstanding theater of thrills. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Now, Roma Wines, R-O-M-A, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world. Roma Wines present Suspense.
Ever hear of a man named Eberman? Matthew Eberman, his name was. He had his name in the papers quite a lot, Matthew did. There's kind of a funny story concerning Matthew, too. Had to do with murder. Matthew was an ugly guy. Ugly as a mud fence, and he hated that. He hated everyone telling him how ugly he was. Why, ever since he was a kid.
I won't play if I have to be Matthew's partner. He's so awful looking it makes me sick to have to look at him with those terrible big hands. Well, I won't play, and I'll tell him so to his face. Matthew Eberman, you're the ugliest, most horrible-looking boy I've ever seen. You're double ugly. That's what you are. Look at you. Look at you. Double ugly, double ugly, double
Sometimes Matthew would cry. He'd go home and beat his big fists into his pillow and nearly choke, getting the sobs out of him.
Don't cry, Matthew. What do you care what they say? Friends don't matter unless they love you for yourself. Don't cry, dear. Mother loves you. Mother thinks you're a wonderful boy. There, now don't you cry.
And then Matthew wouldn't cry. It was a funny thing, too. He came from a good family, enough money, education. And if he hadn't been so ugly... If he hadn't been, his voice would have been kind of pleasant to listen to. One time, I remember, he got along okay with just his voice. It was at a masquerade. After he got the costume and the mask all on, his mother said...
Why, I hardly know my own boy. All dressed up like that.
Why he ever went, I don't know. Wanted to be with people, I guess. Anyway, he did go to the party, and he danced with all the girls in the place. And one girl was so beautiful. Some lovely duchess, maybe from 100 or 200 years ago. Like a soft cloud of ruffles and lace, and the scent of magic clung all about her.
Who are you?
Someone who's in love with you.
A masquerade is so romantic. It's perfectly all right to fall in love with a stranger. Someone you haven't the slightest idea who it is.
Well, do you mind if I fall in love with you?
It's a masquerade.
I've never said it before. I love you.
Who are you?
I love you.
Who are you? I'll tell you who I am if you'll tell me who you are.
Ladies and gentlemen, unmasked!
Oh, come on, take off your mask. Well, it doesn't matter now. Here, I'll take mine off first.
No.
Well, remove yours.
No.
Oh, you silly, you must. Take it off. I'll take it off of you myself.
No, don't, please don't.
I will. Matthew Eberman.
Some lovely duchess. A soft cloud of lace and the scent of magic all about her. Matthew's mother died. Matthew went away from town. It was after that he had to do with murder.
For Suspense...
Just told you about him as a boy, so maybe you could understand him later on. You see, he never knew a soul to talk to except some of the men who worked in the same plant where he did. He got a job there in this plant throwing sacks into a truck. At lunchtime, Matthew would listen to the other men talking, his big hands opening and closing regularly.
You know what I think? I think it's better to be married no matter what.
That's right, handsome. Still, lots of men don't get married.
That's right.
Hey, you ain't married, are you, Eberman?
No.
Oh? How come, Eberman?
I don't know.
I thought I'd never get married. I thought women married only good-looking men. Shucks, Eberman, if a woman had married me, one ought to marry you.
I never knew anyone to marry.
Well, my ball and chain will fix that. I tell you what, come up to the house Saturday night. Yeah, Eberman's the one I was telling you about that don't know no one to marry, Hazel.
Why, Mr. Eberman, ain't you ashamed? There's lots of girls around that's just dying to get married. Ain't you never wanted a home? Now look at our little place. Ain't it cute? A man needs a woman's touch and vice versa.
Yeah, that's the truth, Eberman.
Sure. Now look at Hanson here, Mr. Eberman. He wasn't no use to himself at all alone. And now we got a really good life worked out.
Oh, now, Hazel, honey, don't force.
Oh, that's all right. Let her talk.
I would have anyways, Mr. Eberman. Hanson don't hold no water with me.
The fat wife talked, and Matthew listened. And he began to wonder if maybe there wasn't something in what she said. It was lonesome. He could quit the plant if he wanted. He had all that money his mother left him when he died. He only worked because it was so lonesome. And then Hazel said,
Now, let's see. Who'd be a good girl for you? Well, what type do you go for? Penny Schwartz? No, I know. Sally Mason.
Sally Mason. A big, easy-going blonde. Like a soft cloud of ruffles and lace and the scent of magic. No. That's getting it all mixed up. Anyway, Hazel arranged for them to meet at a party at her house. She had all the men and their wives from the plant, and a guy named Lefty played the piano. Played piano like old-time movies. Everybody had a swell time except Matthew. He sat alone over in one corner of the porch. He heard the screen door open and close, and a big bunch of white that was Sally moved over to him.
Oh, there you are, Mr. Eberman. What do you mean by running away from the party? I'm your date tonight, aren't I?
Sure, but I thought maybe you'd want to be with some of those fellas that talk more. You know, I'm pretty quiet.
Oh, I don't mind. I think that's the mark of a gentleman. Oh, gorgeous night, huh? Isn't it? You know, I think nature's just about the grandest thing in the world, don't you? Huh? Oh, trees and flowers and all. Ain't so many flowers around here, though. I like sunshine and clean scenery all around. Don't you? Huh? I get so lonesome here. Lonesome for a girl. That is, of course, if you aren't married.
I get lonesome, too.
You do? I never thought men got lonesome. I thought it was only girls. Men can get out.
I get lonesome.
Oh, Sure, I remember now. Hazel told me. You're afraid you're too ugly looking.
What are you laughing at? I do get lonesome, and that's the reason, only you're not to laugh.
Well, my goodness, I wasn't laughing. Except it's funny to think of a man being so... Say, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. I'm lonesome, too, ain't I? You've got the biggest hands I ever seen. Do you think I'm pretty? Do you? Oh, I get so lonesome.
Matthew couldn't get it out of his head about this funny girl. Do you think I'm pretty? He didn't even know. He couldn't even remember what she looked like when he went to work the next day. And when he started to get his lunch, there was something over by the gate that he'd never noticed before. Something pink and fresh. His big hands opened and closed. It was Sally. All in pink organdy, like a pink balloon at a children's party.
I guess you're surprised to see me, aren't you, Mr. Eberman?
Yeah, I guess I am.
I thought maybe you might like a little home-fixed lunch. Does it look good, huh? Now, we can eat over here in the shade if you don't mind having a lady as company. I was all alone today, and that's why I come. Looky here. I even got some chocolate creams for after. You like them?
Uh-huh.
I do myself. Say, ain't this a cute bracelet? Huh? Little tiny bells. Must be hard work to make a thing like that now, don't you think? Oh, say, have one of those sandwiches, Mr. Eberman. They're gorgeous.
Sally chatted away, all in pink, and self-consciously turned her wrist to make the little bells tinkle. Matthew ate steadily, silently, big, thick sandwiches.
Just like a party, ain't it?
After a while, it was time to go back to work. Matthew stood up and didn't know what to say. Just looked. Sally's face was kind of shiny from the heat, and the pink had gone limp and bunched. But a breeze picked up the loose strands of her hair. Her foot twisted like a little girl.
You know, you never once called me by name. It's Sally.
I know.
Oh, call me by name. I like being called by name.
I will.
Oh, can't you do it now? Oh, it won't hurt none.
I gotta go back to work.
Okay. So long.
So long. You look pretty in pink.
Why, say I'm awful glad you like it. It's one of my favorite colors in all this world.
The men and their wives at the plant watched the romance develop.
Gonna get hitched, Mr. Everman?
It's better to get married no matter what.
No matter what. Matthew never asked Sally to marry him until the day he saw her out by the fence where she lived, talking to Lefty, the man who'd played the piano at Handsome's party the first night they met. He saw Lefty pinch her cheek, and he heard Sally laugh.
Lefty, you say the silliest thing. Oh, you can't expect a girl to take me serious. Now, oh, no, don't. Stop that.
Oh, come on.
You're terrible.
You take your hands off her.
What's the matter? You don't
take
know.
your hands off.
Oh, Matthew, look what you done to Lefty. Why, you knocked him out cold.
You're not to fool around with guys like that. I don't like the woman I'm going to marry fooling around with guys like that.
Mary? Oh, Matthew. Why, that's the one thing in the whole wide world I always wanted to be.
Matthew took his bride to Niagara Falls. There was only one thing, the bracelet. Matthew wondered what he could do about that. The little house was a white cottage, located pretty much by itself, quite a distance from the plant. Sally had to walk a good way to see any of the people she used to know.
How's married life, Sally?
Oh, say, it's the grandest thing. You should come by and see us, pay us a social call.
Yeah, I hear you got a nice place to live.
Yeah, flowers and a tree. You simply got to come and see it.
And the men and their wives at the plant did come and see it. They sat around the house and put their feet on things and spilled cigar ashes on the floor and talked loud and common. Matthew didn't say a word. He just sat, listened, looked at the mess they made. They stayed a long time. Matthew thought they never would go.
Now that you know the way, don't be strangers.
Oh, don't worry.
Yeah, we'll be back real often now that we know the way. Good night. Well, good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Matthew looked at the rugs and the footmarks on the chairs. The place looked ugly.
Oh, imagine entertaining folks in your very own home.
They won't come again.
Well, why not?
Look at the rug.
Oh, that ain't nothing. I just run the sweeper over it and you'll...
They're not coming again.
Oh, but a house ain't nothing without folks coming in.
We got each other.
Oh, yes, but...
They never had another party. Maybe Matthew saw his own face in the ashes on the floor. The house grew quiet, and Sally got nervous.
Oh, it's just that we sit here and don't say a word, Matthew. I get lonesome. Can we have a party? Huh? Well, can't we go to other people's parties then? Oh, can't we do that?
The yard grew up in weeds, and the flowers didn't do so well, and the tree didn't grow. Even the smoke from the plant seemed to find its way over to the house. The white got gray, then it got black in splotches, then the paint peeled. Matthew lived. Sally put on weight.
See the pretty pink ribbon I got to match my hair. Lady at the dime store said blonde hair got awful dingy looking, so I got this bottle of stuff. Only a dime. Look how it brightens up the color of my hair. Huh? Oh, have a chocolate cream, Matthew. These creams come from the dime store, too. I can't even notice the difference from the ones you used to buy me.
He walked away. He always walked away. He wanted to tell Sally how much he wanted to be close to her, but he couldn't. She filled the house with frilly things and all the fussy doodads that go with it.
You just won't believe what I got to show you, Matthew. It's just like Joanne Crawford had in the magazine. Look, it's a genuine toy poodle. Just like a little ball of fur, ain't he? Hello, beautiful. Oh, such a wondrous little lollipop, my baby. Would you like a little chocolate cream like the one? Oh, Matthew, eat a scream. Look at him eat some cream. Would you like them, don't you? Here, have another one. And tasty good, huh? Oh, no, Mommy. These marshmallow mustn't bark. What is it, baby? What's the matter, Mommy?
Matthew walked away.
Watch your canaries jump on their perch, Matthew. Hey. I just don't understand those birds, Matthew. They don't sing a song like canaries are supposed to. Now, you naughty bad boy, scaring your Yitsy sisters like that. I just won't talk to you again. Don't you make that funny face in the muddy. Oh, Mommy didn't mean to hurt the feelings. Oh, Matthew, isn't it a scream? Here, little angel. Here, little furry angel. Let's divide it. A chocolate cream, huh? Yeah, it's for you. Oh, no. You mustn't all up. Oh, for goodness. Oh, look at that, Matthew. All down my neck, the cheek. Here, now. And you just go and sit in your puppy's lap. Don't you like to sit in the daddy's lap, ain't you, baby doll? Why, Matthew, you hit him. Oh, Matthew, don't do that way. Matthew.
What are you crying for, Sally?
You shouldn't have hit him. Oh, look at him. Don't you cry away your face, or Mommy won't either. No. Looky, Matthew. He's just like a kid, ain't he? I think maybe kids wouldn't make it so lonesome.
No. Matthew got up, went and stood by the window and looked out.
I like the house, but I get lonesome.
Lonesome? In your own home? Why go to those awful parties with ashes and footmarks on the chairs and the men with their arms around Sally? She shouldn't have allowed that. She belonged to him. She was the only person who ever did belong to him. Hadn't she come to him in the plant yard that day? Sure she had. She liked him.
You're the only one that's afraid you're too ugly.
She shouldn't be singing that song that Lefty plays. That Lefty pinching her cheek and laughing at him. She shouldn't have allowed that.
Mom's got the angel head.
And you wanted her to leave that dog alone. Why couldn't she treat him like that? Matthew looked out the window. It's too bad about the paint and the smoke that came over from so far from the plant. The weeds all around. He was surprised to see the tree look bigger. Maybe he hadn't noticed the tree for a long time.
Matthew?
Yeah?
What are you doing, Matthew?
Thinking.
Oh.
He looked at her. Where was that pink and fresh thing he'd seen before at the plant? The face shining from the heat and the loose strands of hair caught in the breeze.
No one's called me by name. I like being called by name.
A big, fat, blonde lump.
Oh, these creams come from the dime store, and you can't even tell the difference.
Where was that pink and fresh thing by the gate? Sally was standing by the canary cage and wiggling her wrist again. She hadn't done that for a long time, since Niagara Falls.
Look, Matthew, I found that bracelet with the bells on it. I thought it might make the canaries sing. Come on, birdie doos. Do you think they're sick, Matthew? I've never seen them so quiet before. Listen to the bells, birdie babies. Tinkle, 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 tinkle.
Matthew's hands were opening and closing at his sides, like they were grasping for something to hold and never finding it.
I just don't understand those birds at all.
You've gotten fat, Sally.
Oh, it don't matter. I don't care. Nobody cares if a married woman gets fat. That's what Hazel says. I like Hazel. She's good company. I don't get down her way much now, though. My ankles swell up from these French heels. Cute shoes, though, ain't they, Matthew? Makes the foot look small. The ankles swell up, but it does make the foot look small. Oh, swell up, too. I don't know what's wrong with them. I wish I could get these birds to sing. Oh, I'm bored.
Aren't you happy with me, Sally?
Yeah, but we never do anything. Oh, I get crazy here all the time. I just get so I can't stay still another minute or I'll scream. If we had some kids, then maybe we'd mean more to each other, have something to talk to each other about. And kids is awful good company, and then conversation about kids is good company, and good talk between a man and his wife.
Not you want to run. You want to kick the walls, tear the house down, anything.
Mommy's little baby now, mustn't fall. No.
Where was that terrace that I'd seen once upon a time? Some lovely duchess, maybe from 100 or 200 years ago.
Now, there's no reason you can't tell me who you are. You're masked. I'll do it for you. Look at you.
Maybe if he grabbed Sally, held her so close, that would make a difference.
Ugly. It's the funniest boy I've ever seen. Yes, you ever.
Why did it have to turn out this way? They said that a man ought to be married no matter what.
I think nature's the grandest thing in the world, don't you? No matter what. I get so lonesome. We had a chance to be more to each other. Can we go out? Can we go out? Never like
You could only stop all that noise. If you could only just get a minute to think, get out all that noise. Then you could get it. What? Sally was so fat. Matthew stuffed his mouth full of dime store chocolates, one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. The whole room began to turn. Big, fat, blonde, lump all covered in pink. Matthew looked around the room. No trees, no flowers. The canaries in the dog were quiet.
Oh, Matthew, they was like kids to me. Little helpless babies. And you, just look at your hands. They're red, all red, wet, yellow. You look so ugly.
The big blonde was still as could be, except her wrists. But her face hated him. She said he was ugly. Ugly.
Can't you even say that you're sorry, Matthew? Matthew! Don't do like that with your hands. No! I don't want you near me, hear me? You'll get those awful hands of yours all over my negligee. Matthew! Matthew! Put your hands down. No!
Those carpenter boys sure know what to do with their hammers, don't they? Listen. I guess they're getting ready for in the morning, cutting down a tree to build a thing like that. Well, that's the story of Matthew Eberman, I guess. There's just one thing that I'd like to ask you, please.
Sure. Anything you want? What can we do for you?
Well, my name, it's all right to print that, but...
Sure.
I guess maybe you'll wonder how I could tell you all this, like I was talking about somebody else. Well, it's because Matthew Eberman wasn't ever a person I really wanted to be. He was somebody I knew and I didn't like. I hated him, just like everybody else did, because he was ugly. There's no excuse for what he did, poor old Matthew. Hating makes so many lonely people. And it makes ugly people, too. Ugly and mean on the inside. I guess the best thing would be if everybody would... Wouldn't it be a nice world if people would... My name, see, that's all right, but no pictures, please. No pictures in the papers, huh? You know, it mean an awful lot to me. You understand, don't you? There won't be any pictures in the papers, will there? Just promise me that and I'll be so great. No pictures.
Suspense.
Double Ugly, starring Lloyd Nolan, presented by Roma Wines. That's R-O-M-A. Roma Wines. Those better tasting wines enjoyed by more Americans than any other wines. Yes, Roma wines taste better because Roma starts with natural juices, gently pressed from luscious grapes gathered in California's choicest vineyards. With ancient skills and the world's greatest winemaking resources, Roma master vintners guide this great treasure unhurriedly to tempting taste perfection. Then these better tasting wines are placed with mellow Roma wines of years before, and from these, the world's greatest reserves of fine wines, Roma later selects for your pleasure. With the holiday weekend coming up, be sure you offer your guests their choice of glorious Roma California sherry, rich Roma port, and golden Roma muscatel, served cool. Or, if they prefer a tall, cool drink, make it a Roma wine and soda. Remember, Roma wines taste better. That's R-O-M-A, Roma Wines, America's largest selling wines.
Lloyd Nolan appeared through the courtesy of 20th Century Fox, producers of Kiss of Death. Tonight's suspense play was by George Lloyd. Next Thursday, same time, you will hear Edmund O'Brien as star of Suspense. Produced and directed by William Spear for the Roma Wine Company of Fresno, California. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Suspense. In America's most discriminating homes and clubs, where dining and entertaining is the last word in luxury, the first word in wines is C-R-E-S-T-A, B-L-A-N-C-A. Cresta Blanca. Cresta Blanca. Yes, Cresta Blanca California wines bring gracious luxury to your table from the finest of the vines. When you pour superb Cresta Blanca Burgundy, Sauterne, or any Cresta Blanca table wine, you enjoy the wine offered in America's most discriminating homes. For the best, serve Cresta Blanca. Shenley's Cresta Blanca Wine Company, Livermore, California.
And now, Shenley brings you radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense. Presented by Roma Wines. That's R-O-M-A. Roma Wines, for your everyday enjoyment.
And now, Roma Wines of Fresno, California, bring you Mr. Edmund O'Brien in the Argyle Album, a suspense play produced, edited, and directed for Shenley by William Spear.
Back when I got my first job on the Herald, Alan Pierce was its star reporter. A little later, he went to Washington and became top dog of all syndicated political columnists. Pierce could tell you what the president said when he didn't like his breakfast and who was getting paid off, for what, by whom, and how much. He was a national big shot, so naturally his coming back to the hometown last January got local front page. Especially since the first thing happens, he checks into the Belden General Hospital from a heart attack he had on the train, right as it pulled into the station. Quite an entrance. And time? Well, maybe you remember. Just when 22 million anxious readers were waiting for his promised expose of the contents of the Argyle Album, the thing he'd been building up in his columns for about 2 weeks before. Teapot Dome was going to be a church club misunderstanding compared to this. Naturally, all the boys hung around the anteroom of his hospital suite during visiting hours, but nobody from the press cracked the door to the sick room for the first 3 days. Then, on the fourth morning, Van Selbin, the doctor, came smiling out into the anteroom.
Good morning, gentlemen. Gentlemen, Mr. Pierce would have willingly seen you all the first day. Of course, as his medical advisor, I couldn't permit anything of the sort. However, today I'll allow you to see him one at a time. I suggest that you gentlemen draw straws or something for turns. Oh, that is, except the man from the Herald. Mr. Pierce asked expressly to see him first.
Hey, the Herald man, that's me.
Is the Herald representative here?
Over here, Doctor.
Do you want to come in now?
Right with you, Doctor. Hey, Pinky, come here.
Yeah, Harry.
Listen, Dr. Van Selbin, this is Mr. Melvin Pincus, the Herald's best and believe me, quietest photographer. Now, he's very good for patients. I wondered
I'm afraid not, Mr. Mitchell.
Okay, Doc. Okay. Stand by, Pinky.
Nurse, let this gentleman in. I'll be on the 5th floor.
Very well.
Hello there.
How are you, sir?
You're Harry Mitchell, aren't you?
That's right, Mr. Pierce.
Come on, now, make it Al.
All right, Al.
So you're young Mitchell.
Uh-huh.
How time flies. I spoke to the old man on the phone. I said, send your next Alan Pierce over, and he sent you. Do you consider that a compliment?
Compliment, brother. I'm going to hit him for a nice fat raise.
Well, Harry, have you got your questions all written down like a good reporter should?
Oh, no, I don't work that way, sir.
Neither do I. I suppose you want to know what the Argyle album is?
Say, you're not really going to tell me.
Look, crank me up a little bit, will you?
Yeah, sure.
Harry, it's got to a point where I think I ought to share it with somebody. Preferably somebody like myself who thinks like me. And I'm going to ask you not to use this unless I'm not in a position to.
Okay, it's a deal.
Well, you know what an album is. This one is quite a fancy-looking one. Tooled white leather bound, and a flaming crimson double-headed eagle crest etched on the cover. It's an impressive item.
Maybe you better take it easy, Mr. Pierce.
You were going to call me Al.
Okay, Al, but honest, maybe you better...
I'm all right. I'm a little dizzy.
Want the doctor?
No, just a drink. A drink of water, please.
He lay back on his pillow, breathing terribly. There was a thermos on the bedstand that turned out empty. I grabbed a glass and ran into the bathroom, filled it from the tap. I'll be right there, Al. Mr. Pierce. Al. Oh. I stood there for a while, feeling awfully bad, thinking awfully hard. Finally figured an idea.
Hey, Harry.
Pinky.
Harry, come on, what's going on? There I am, General. Is he going to pose?
Yeah, he's going to pose. Come on in here.
What's going on?
Pinky. Huh? Pinky, look at him. He's dead.
Huh?
Passed out while we were talking. This is our beat. It's big. It's a scoop. I don't want those other tin horns out there cutting in.
What are you going to do?
I'm going out and phone. You stay here and don't let anybody in through that door.
You're not letting me alone with him.
An old hound like you? Are you kidding?
I don't like it.
I went out to the pay station in the hall and phoned in the story. Then I found Dr. Van Selden on the 5th floor and broke the news. Between the 5th and 7th floor, where Pierce's suite was, we picked up the chief surgeon, the superintendent, 4 nurses, and litter bearers and attendants. We went through the anteroom where the reporters were.
Hey, come on.
The newspaper boys smelled something was up. Nobody'd left them in Pierce's room, but the official hospital gang and me barged in and headed straight for the bed where the corpse was. I got a funny feeling. Pinky wasn't in the room. Dr. Van Selden and the chief surgeon went over to the bed and pulled back the covers, and you could feel the shock go through the whole crowd. A long steel scalpel was sticking right up in the middle of Alan Pierce's chest. An hour later, Lieutenant Horselip Sampson, who was top man in homicide, strutted in and took over. He got the story from us and just sat there for a while, thinking, very professional, exuding brilliance. Then His Majesty rose and spoke.
Dr. Van Selden?
Yes, sir.
In your opinion, did your patient die from a heart attack, as our reporter friend here claims, or from the knife wound?
I really can't tell you yet. Indications are that it might be either. You see, in either case, the heart was stopped.
Yeah. The heart usually stops in cases of death, doesn't it, Doc, huh? The only thing is, I took his pulse before I left the room. There was no pulse. That scalpel could just as well have been stuck in a loaf of bread for all the damage it would
Mitchell,
have...
why'd you leave a dead man unreported? Why'd you leave the photographer here without telling the nurse?
I was a reporter with a scoop. Who'd you expect me to leave here? Somebody from the Express?
Nurse, Were you outside the door the whole time?
Yes, sir, with the reporters, and nobody came out except Mr. Mitchell. The photographer went in, but never came out.
Take a gander in the bathroom, Haggerty.
Yes, sir. And there's nobody here, Chief.
Margerson, those windows locked.
Yes, sir.
Locked room case, Horslip. Should bring out your Scotland Yard training.
Mitchell, you're in too tough a spot to be fresh. If I could only get an angle. Must be an angle.
He got up, sore, and started looking around himself. He walked over to the white bed screen in the corner. It's funny, it stood there all the time, such a natural piece of hospital equipment, you never noticed
Gotta
it.
get an angle.
But even now, before
Yeah,
he touched it,
some kind of an angle.
I knew what he'd find there.
Now, where am I
And I
gonna
edged
get
for the
an
door.
angle?
He started to pull aside the screen, like somebody'd look hopelessly in any unlikely spot for a lost collar button. Then he let the screen fall over.
Holy
And there was Pinky. Pinky, all huddled up among his photographic equipment with a surgeon's scalpel sticking out of his
Hey,
neck.
you, Mitchell! Mitchell!
I yelled to the reporters in the anteroom that they could go in now. The crowd coming out after me met the crowd going in, and I was in the corridor while they argued it out. I was around the corner and in the elevator before the cops could get through. I walked right through the walled-off lobby and up to the second floor, and nobody said a thing. Time was still with me. I knew Pierce's secretary was keeping suite 213 for him until he was supposed to get out of the hospital.
One moment. Yes.
May I come in?
Well,
I'm a friend of Mr. Pierce's, Mitchell of the Herald.
Oh, what is it, Mr. Mitchell? Something I can do?
Would you let me rifle your boss's desk, huh?
What?
Files, papers, and possessions. I'll put them back real neat. There's something I have to find.
Are you crazy?
I was afraid that'd be your answer.
What are you going to do?
I'm sorry.
Don't!
Really am. I really was. I didn't like to hit a woman, especially that cute. I searched the suite top and bottom, but if Pierce had ever had the Argyle album, he took no chances keeping it around. I found his personal address book, though, and figured it was no more use to him than it might be to me. Now I needed a place where I could sit down and think. Then I remembered I was carrying a key from my pal Joe Walsh's apartment while he was sunning himself in Florida. Yeah, at least nobody could figure my going there. At Walsh's place, I spent about 20 minutes with Pierce's address book. He had Washington phone numbers in it that hadn't been in public directories for the last 30 years. But there was one in this town that had a red crayon circle around it. It was a query. Jobrod. Jorbrod on Worcester Street. Not the kind of neighborhood Alan Pierce usually socialized in. I was just about deciding I'd go and see Jobrod when somebody decided to pay me a visit. I checked through the keyhole. I didn't see much, but what there was to see was female. So I took my chances and opened the door. She stood there, about 5'7" of the most interesting stuff I ever remember seeing. Not young, mind you, not angelic, but gorgeous and smart-looking and sweet-voiced.
Hello there.
Who are you?
May I come in?
Sure, it's your risk. Who are you?
You may call me Marla, Mr. Mitchell. And I want the Argyle album.
Just like that?
No, not just like that. I could be nasty, you know. After all, the police want you.
Somehow, Marla, that doesn't worry me at all. I just don't think you make it a policy to have traffic with the police.
An astute youngster. I like you.
I like you, too, but I haven't time.
I'll give you $500 for it.
I don't even know what it is. What is the Argyle album?
10,000.
Without a breath, huh? There's some jump.
10,000.
I'm really sorry, Marla.
That's what I wanted to know. It's not for sale. Very well.
She moved so casually and directly to the door and opened it so quickly I hadn't even gotten out of my chair before her two boyfriends stepped in. The first one looked like a fat businessman, hair slightly gray, nice smile. The one who followed him had the square, low-cut, irresistible appearance of a medium-sized tank.
Mr. Winter, Mr. Hobray, Mr. Mitchell.
How do you do?
He's not terribly cooperative.
Oh, no?
He doesn't perform, not for love, nor for money. Very stubborn.
Well, she really didn't try love, Mr. Winter.
From what I know of Marla, that's hard to believe. Hey, Marla? So you're stubborn, Mr. Mitchell. A stubborn murderer.
I'll repeat my question. What is the Argyle album?
My, you are a gifted actor.
Never mind. Forget it, Mr. Winter.
Well, isn't $10,000 enough? That's the best we can offer and still make a profit.
Let's not waste time.
Oh, I am sorry, my boy. I'm very sorry. Very well, Gil.
The big guy stepped toward me. I I ducked, tipped the table between us. Gil put to the side like it was matchwood. His left hand lashed out and had the lapels of my coat, and I was lifted until my shoe tips touched the floor, helpless as a baby. I started slapping my face, front hand and back. It kept up and up like a hot lick on the drums, and the agony was unbearable. He stopped. I waited. Like you wait between pauses of the dentist drill. Then I guess I tried to move because I saw the small eyes flicker and the huge fist come swinging at my face. I wanted to duck but couldn't. My hands were torn from in front of my face, and it came. Shocks of intolerable pain like searing flames, and then the flame flickered and went out.
For Suspense, Roma Wines are bringing you Mr. Edmund O'Brien in the Argyle album. Roma Wines' presentation tonight in radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense.
Suspense, radio's outstanding theater of thrills, is presented by Roma Wines. That's R-O-M-A, Roma Wines. Selected from the world's greatest reserves of fine wines. Now that the vacation season is over, friends and neighbors are dropping in evenings to talk over summertime experiences. Make these pleasant reunions rich in cheerful companionship by serving delicious Roma California wines. Yes, guests are sure to feel right at home when you offer glasses of rich Roma sherry, Roma port, Roma muscatel, or Roma tokay. These traditional Roma wines of welcome, long favorites with millions of Americans, add warmth to conversation, make every friendly occasion more enjoyable. There's a better tasting Roma wine for every occasion, for every taste. Keep an assortment on hand for everyday dining and gracious entertaining. Remember, always insist on Roma wine. That's R-O-M-A, Roma Wines, America's favorite wines.
And now, Roma Wines bring back to our Hollywood soundstage Mr. Edmund O'Brien as reporter Harry Mitchell in the Argyle album, a play well calculated to keep you in suspense.
I was in the bedroom of the apartment, and Marla was bathing my forehead with a damp handkerchief. I lay quiet until things cleared up a bit.
That's it. Rest a little. That's the boy.
Marla.
Where's the album, darling? Where's the album?
I swear I don't know. I don't know.
You don't want me to call him again, do you, Harry?
No, please, no.
Both in the kitchen.
Huh?
I'm supposed to help you wake up and then call.
No, don't.
But if you haven't got it, do you know where it is?
I swear, Marla, I swear. I don't even know what it is. All I know is it's tooled white leather or something.
You don't? Well, all right, here's what I know. Winter found it originally. He was in occupied Europe then. He doesn't admit it, but I think he was the leader of a looting party after an American raid. It was a sheaf of documents recording the transfer of large sums of money by certain individuals, both German and American. Big men who wanted to make sure that they'd come out right no matter whose armies won. Winter knew that he'd found a fortune that day. Fortune in blackmail.
Well, what happened?
He kept it in a public locker in a bus station. Normally the safest place in the world. It was in a town down here in Virginia, Argyle. On a 1,000,000-to-1 twist, he lost it. A gang of young hoodlums blew open that section with a dynamite stick. And it's been missing ever since, until Alan Pierce started hinting about it in his column in the international scandal it involved. So when Pierce died, you see, Winter had a right to suspect that Pierce's murderer might have the album. Naturally, the big man wanted it, too. Lots of people want it badly. Including me.
You? What for?
Resale value.
I see. It's a decent motive.
I'm a decent person.
Yeah. Yeah, you are. Come here.
Oh, you're nice. You're a nice boy.
You know, I could just press my thumbs here at your windpipe and you couldn't
thought of that.
You're not kidding me.
That's the excuse I'll give to Winter. That you choked me and I couldn't yell. You get on the fire escape and I'll give you plenty of time before I call.
I don't figure what's in it for you.
We'll see each other again, won't we? You'll find it.
Huh?
Hurry.
Okay, honey. You asked for it.
Not too hard.
It was a funny experience choking a woman deliberately. I squeezed pretty hard, scuffing bruises at her throat to make it look good. I got so mixed up I didn't know what I was doing. I took her once and kissed her very hard. I rumpled her clothes a little and mussed her hair, and when she looked pretty battered, I kissed her again, and then I crawled out in the fire escape and down. I gave the cabbie the Worcester Street address from Pierce's book. It was a junkyard. Joe Brod's junkyard.
What do you want?
You Mr. Brod, Joe Brod?
That's my name. What do you want?
The Argyle album.
What? How did you... I know you. You're that Mitchell guy, the police one for the murder of Alan Pierce. If you move, I'll kill you.
Hey. Say, I got you figured, Brod. Huh? Yeah, you're the fence for all the juvenile crooks around here.
Oh, some junkyard.
Well, I'm on lots better terms with the cops than you are, Mitchell.
Yeah?
And I'm phoning them right now.
Sure. One of your kids brought you a nice white leather book with a two-headed eagle on it. Maybe you stretched and gave him 2 bits for it. Then you found out you had something too big for a little guy. You knew it was worth dough, but your stomach wasn't tough enough for big-time blackmail.
No.
Yeah, so you figured a way to be right. And still make dough. Sell it to Alan Pierce.
What of it? Selling's no crime.
Hey, I'm really guessing, but good, huh? You invested the price of a couple of photostats and a train ticket to Washington. You got to Pierce and sold him the photostats. And then you told him he'd have to come here for the rest, huh?
Nothing to keep me from killing you right now.
No, I guess there isn't.
Sure not. You're a fugitive, aren't you? Escape killer, you they wouldn't touch me.
Wait, don't!
Don't you even say thanks when your life is saved?
Thanks. And nice shot.
Don't mention it. You wonder how I knew you were here.
Yeah, you watched me take the cab from the window and got the number. I know that one now.
Oh, you're bright as well as nice. Maybe we can play this game together now that we have the album.
Huh? Have we?
Well, it can't be far. From the desk drawer, the filing...
I think we both saw Brod move at the same time. The gun at the edge of his fingers was somehow in his hands again. It wavered weakly between Marla and me. It was like watching a slow-motion movie. Marla didn't waste time. I saw the Swede's little body jump at the impact, but his gun kept waving, and it went off. Marla sighed and fell down at my feet. She smiled at me once, that's all. I walked through 3 cops in the hall of the police station, getting no more reaction than a nod of greeting, and into Horselip Sampson's office.
Thanks for the phone call, Mitchell. But you gave us a bum steer. What's your angle?
Bum steer? I saw the shooting.
We found a woman. Very dead indeed. But there was no man.
Joe Bra? He didn't look alive when I saw him last.
Well, he wasn't there.
I'm only telling you.
Now, what do you expect us to do with you?
Book me on suspicion of murder.
The murder of who, may I ask?
Alan Pierce, naturally.
You, want to confess?
It's not bargain day today, Lieutenant.
Oh, it was just an angle.
Look, did the autopsy on Pierce come through?
I was wondering why you gave yourself up. Yeah, he died of heart failure, like you claimed. But only because he was so loaded with dope, even a normal heart would give up.
Dope? You mean poison?
Oh, same thing. Too much medicine. And Dr. Van Selbin, the one who dosed him, has disappeared. Took a powder. You're not even runner-up a suspect now, Mitchell.
Heart failure. Heart failure. But then why the scalpel? Why? Whoever stuck that scalpel into Pierce wanted to create suspicious circumstances around the death, so they'd be sure there'd be an autopsy.
Hey, that's an angle.
Yeah, but how about Pinky? And how did the murderer get in and out of the room?
Look,
How?
Mitchell, you want to be held?
No.
Then stop asking questions I can't answer. Go on, beat it.
I still wanted to break it. I found myself nursing a deep belief that there must be equal justice for the murders of a man I loved, another I respected, and a woman I admired. Well, there was only one place I could figure out where to start. I picked my way through Joe Brod's junkyard. Shapes of skeleton cars stood out dark in the moonlight. At the far end of the yard was a lighted shack. I went up to it, almost to the door. Somebody pushed me from behind. My own body knocked the door open. Rod was propped into a chair, facing me, his eyes wide. Winter stood beside him, and Gil walked up from behind me alongside.
Oh, come in, Mitchell.
Thanks.
Well, Mr. Mitchell, this is a proper ending. Another demonstration of the ascendancy of will.
Is he alive?
Who? O'Brod here? No, not now. He was very weak and had no resistance, but we learned what we needed. He had the album quite cleverly hidden. But we have it now. Oh, yeah. You want to see it?
Thanks. Say, who hired Dr. Van Selben to kill Pierce?
A very powerful and very wealthy individual. Most concerned with retrieving the album, Mr. Mitchell.
But you didn't want it to be heart failure. You wanted to force an autopsy. That's why you stuck the scalpel into the corpse.
Yeah, that's rather clever of you, Mr. Mitchell.
And in the hospital, you were dressed as an attendant, right? Huh? You got behind that bed screen sometime earlier in the day, probably early in the morning before Pierce woke up, right? You were willing to wait a long time for what you wanted.
It was very tough.
You hoped to find out from Pierce where he had hidden the album. You found out instead that Pierce didn't have it. But you knew that Pierce was going to die anyhow from the overdose. So you decided to frame the doctor with the scalpel, forcing the autopsy. You know, there's only one conceivable reason for you to have taken all those chances.
And what, may I ask, can that conceivable reason be?
That you are the powerful and wealthy individual who got Dr. Van Selben to do Pierce's murder.
Really?
That you are no more Mr. Winter than I am. Yeah, the original Mr. Winter who smuggled the album out of Europe. You eliminated when he first tried to blackmail you and your fellow thieves.
Thieves, really?
By that line of reasoning, I was able to do a little research in the files of my reporter's memory. And in spite of the fact that you have no mustache and there are several other slightly physical changes that could be easily adjusted, you have an amazing resemblance to the very powerful, very wealthy Mr. Gerald K. Avery.
Theory, merely theory. But isn't this indulgence in violence a strange occupation for a man like Gerald Avery?
Not at all, Mr. Avery. A man doesn't become an international power by going to Sunday school every week. You decided nobody could do your dirty work better than yourself. I suppose you felt you needed help, so you got a professional adventuress like Marla to work with you on the grounds that you yourself were an adventurer, a blackmailer. The same goes for Gil here.
Yeah, your time's run over, Mitchell.
And Pinky, yeah. Pinky. Of course, it doesn't bother you that you killed a nice guy with a nice family. To you, he was only in the way. You stuck the scalpel into Pierce's corpse to save yourself some more trouble. The trouble of paying off Dr. Van Selben. He'll probably show up floating. You dragged Pinky behind the screen, and you got behind with him and hid. Then when all the doctors and attendants broke into the room and rushed around Pierce's bed, you stepped out casually from behind the screen and mingled with the crowd. You were dressed for the part.
As a reporter, Mr. Mitchell, would you describe that exploit as daring or brilliant?
No, Mr. Avery. I'd use the words selfish, traitorous, foul.
Oh, your morality sickens me.
There's
now,
one
Mitchell,
more thing you didn't count on. Gil here.
Gil has nothing to do with it.
Oh, yes, he has.
You keep your mouth shut.
I'll do nothing of the sort.
Let him talk. Gil, let go of my arm.
Let him talk. Thanks, Gil. And just keep hold of that arm.
Talk.
Okay. As I was saying, Mr. Avery, you forgot that Marla and Gil have been playing along with you because they figured you were their kind. There is a certain honor among little crooks, but not among you big-timers, Mr. Avery. Now, you have the album that couldn't hurt anybody but yourself. Who's the blackmail? Where's the payoff? Gil's wondering what's going to protect his interests. He knows now what happened to Dr. Van Selben. He knows. You see, he figured you for an honest crook, not a big-timer.
Gil, you're not listening to him. He's only playing for time. He's only trying to save his own miserable skin. I'll pay you off, Gil. I'll pay you more than you've ever dreamed.
Oh, really are, Gerald Avery.
Don't be an idiot, Gil, now. You cooperate with me, and Gil! My arm!
That was a bad mistake of Mr. Gerald K. Avery. You see, he figured his gun was bigger than Gil. He moved fast, but not quite fast enough. The lead hit Gil on the shoulder, but that didn't even faze him.
I understand he broke Avery's arm. That's when Avery screamed. The next blow broke Avery's neck. Well, there was an awful lot of excitement because Horslip's shadows caught up with the proceedings just about this time, and the details aren't too clear. All I know is, that it had been a big day. I was awfully tired. I went home, climbed in bed, and slept a long, long time, with my head on a nice pillow made of tooled white leather.
Suspense.
Presented by Roma. That's R-O-M-A. Better tasting Roma wines, America's largest selling wines. Whichever Roma California wine you choose, whether it's nut-like Roma sherry, fruity Roma port, or any Roma wine, you can be sure of better tasting wine every time. That's because Roma selects and presses the choicest California grapes. Then, Roma master vintners with ancient skills and America's largest winemaking resources unhurriedly guide this luscious grape goodness to tempting perfection. Then, this wine treasure of better taste is placed with mellow Roma wines of years before to await later selection from the world's greatest reserves of fine wines for your pleasure. So, for everyday enjoyment or friendly hospitality, serve delicious Roma wine. You'll find all Roma wines delightful, inexpensive, and always better tasting. That's why more Americans enjoy Roma wines, that's R-O-M-A, Roma wines, than any other wines in the world.
Edmund O'Brien appeared through the courtesy of Universal International Pictures, now releasing Something in the Wind starring Deanna Durbin. Tonight's suspense play was by Cyril Enfield. Next Thursday, same time, you will hear Michael O'Shea as star of Suspense, produced and directed by William Spear for the Roma Wine Company of Fresno, California. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Sequence of the first letter of their surnames.
But, sir, that will mean rearranging the watches. Surely the...
Silence! You will do as I order.
Very good, sir. The watches will be changed.
That's better, much better. Well, mister, now that we understand one another, we shall cease talking about the ship. Aha, I see you've noticed my photographs.
Well, I can't say I know much about it, sir, but I'd say they're excellent.
Of course they're excellent. I took them myself, a hobby of mine. You may have noticed I have 3 cameras. 2 of them are of German make, the other American. The medium-sized one in the middle I use with infrared film, comparatively recent development. The other 2 I use for general purposes. Are you interested in photography, Mr. Marshall?
Well, I can't say I am particularly, sir. I've never done anything like that for a hobby.
Very well. If you're not interested, you may go.
Oh, I didn't mean that I
That
wasn't...
is an order, Mr. Marshall, and you will now go.
I left him then and stumbled into the cold darkness outside, the thoughts tumbling unendingly through my head as I made my way to my cabin. We were pushing our way over the restless waters of the North Atlantic with a madman in command. On the morning of the 3rd day, the 2nd officer came running onto the bridge and flung himself excitedly into the wheelhouse.
Mr. Marshall, I'd like a word with you.
Well, go ahead, Goodrum. What is it?
Would you come outside? I can't tell you here.
Certainly. Now, what in the world is the matter with you?
It's the wireless operator, sir. Abercrombie. He's gone.
You mean he's disappeared? Off the ship?
Disappeared? Maybe. But I wouldn't wonder if there was a better name for it than that, sir.
What do you mean?
I mean murder.
Suspense.
In the diners and club cars of America's finest trains, wherever the knowing traveler seeks the last word in luxury, the first word in wines is Cresta, Blanca. Cresta Blanca. Cresta Blanca. Yes, Cresta Blanca California wine is the choice among those who set today's mode in travel as well as gracious living. So enrich your dining, distinguish your entertaining with Cresta Blanca. When you pour Cresta Blanca Burgundy, Sauterne, or any Cresta Blanca selection, you enjoy the finest in wine. Shenley's Cresta Blanca Wine Company, Livermore, California.
And now, Shenley brings you radio's outstanding theater of thrills,
Suspense.
Presented by Roma Wines. That's Roma. Roma Wines, for your everyday enjoyment.
Tonight, Roma Wines of Fresno, California, bring you Mr. John Lund in Murder Aboard the Alphabet, a suspense play produced, edited, and directed for Shenley by William Spear.
It is well past midnight now, and I write these words so that other men may know the full story of that ill-fated voyage of the deep-sea tug, Alphabet. Ours was not a large vessel, but sturdily built for its task. And though it seems an age, it was only a little over 6 months ago that we sailed from Liverpool, England, bound out across the North Atlantic to deliver our ship to her new owners, a salvage firm of Boston, Massachusetts.
Stand by to cast off.
We put out with a reduced complement, just a handful of men, 12 in all. We were a new crew, sent on board for this journey over the deep sea lanes. And I sailed as chief officer, under the command of Captain Godfrey Walker, second mate Harvey Goodrum, and chief engineer Alec McTavish being the other members of our small saloon. I remember we departed on a cold, wet day, with the fog lying low over Birkenhead and the northwest wind blowing fresh in our teeth.
Hard port!
As the drab gray of the Liverpool dockside dropped back into the soaking mists, I doubt if any man aboard could have foretold what lay ahead over those 3,000 miles of heaving sea. When we had cleared the lightship, I went into the wheelhouse, where Captain Walker searched the channel ahead, his deep black eyes staring out from under his shaggy eyebrows. I saw him, his huge frame bundled in a salt-stained greatcoat.
Ah, Mr. Marshland, everything secured for sea?
Yes, sir. Everything on deck is lashed down as tight as a whistle.
Good, good. We may get a dirty crossing this time of the year.
Oh, she'll be uncomfortable, sir. When it comes to ships, I'm used to something a little bigger.
You're on no 10,000 tonner now, mister. If we hit it heavy, there'll be many a man on board who'll wish he'd never left the dockside.
Oh, I think the crew can take it, sir.
Maybe, mister, maybe. A few days out and we'll see. Keep it to our course, quartermaster. All right, Mr. Marshland, you can take her now.
Very good, sir.
Your course is south 70 west.
South 70 west, sir.
See these helmsmen keep her on the course. I'll be back in my cabin if you want.
Aye, aye, sir.
Queer cove, the skipper, sir.
Is he?
Aye. Fair gives me the creeps, he does.
Oh, he's probably harmless enough. Used to bigger commands than this, I imagine.
But I'd keep a watch on him, sir.
I'm afraid I don't understand, sir.
I think my meaning is perfectly clear. If the hands are painting ship, they will start with the alleyways and all other items beginning with A. Then the bulkheads, then the decks, and so forth. You understand me now, mister?
Oh, yes, sir. I think I understand. But I'm afraid I don't quite see your reason.
Mr. Marshal, my reasons are not to be questioned. You will remember, while I'm in command of this vessel, I hold the power of life and death. Well, sir?
He was sitting across from me on the small settee of his cabin, his massive face half hidden in the shadows, his eyes piercing into mine. In the nearness of him, I could see the bloodshot veins like thin red tracings against the white. The man was mad. Higgins was right. He was mad.
Yes, life and death.
I looked about his cabin. There was something inhuman in its ordered neatness, as if the warmth of man had not touched it. I saw the books stacked evenly in the bookshelf. I saw the titles arranged in alphabetical order. It was a pattern complete in itself. The desk, the bunk, immaculate. Not a wrinkle or speck of dust visible to the naked eye. On the bulkhead were 4 photographs, enlargements of outdoor scenes. With a start, I realized they, too, were in perfect order, arranged according to the seasons, from left to right. Spring, summer, autumn, winter. My eyes darted about me again, and on the shelf above his bunk, I saw 3 cameras. They also fitted the pattern. The smallest on the left, the largest on the right. I remembered the chair and the ashtray, and turned towards him as he spoke again.
Is that perfectly clear, Mr. Marshal?
Yes, sir. Perfectly clear.
Good. Now, one final thing. I insist that the quartermasters taking the wheel appear in...
If I was you...
Keep a watch on it. Why?
Why? If you don't know now, sir, you'll find out soon enough.
South 70 West. Check your course.
South 70 West it is, sir.
Marshland, sir. You sent for me?
Oh, yes. Come in, mister. Come in. Take a chair, mister.
Thank you, sir.
No, not that one. Over there.
Oh, certainly, sir. Is there anything wrong?
No. Nothing's wrong. I just want to talk to you, discuss the affairs of the ship with you, give you some idea of what I expect. Oh, here. Cigarette?
Oh, thank you.
Oh, by the way, you will not use that ashtray on your right. No, you will not use it. You may place your ash carefully on the other one.
This one?
Yes, that one. Tell me, how long since you had your last berth, mister?
Why, it's been some time, sir.
Oh. Port captain says you know me.
Well, only by reputation, sir.
Would it surprise you to learn that I know something of you by reputation, mister?
Why, I don't exactly...
We ought to make quite a pair, mister, quite a pair. Oh, well, no matter. Now, I shall tell you the reason I summoned you to my cabin, Mr. Marshal. You will find, if you do not know already, that I have very definite ways I wish things to be done. Very definite ways. First of all, I demand complete, unquestioning obedience.
Well, of course, sir. I'm sure you'll get the fullest cooperation from myself and the crew.
Good. I want that to be perfectly clear. I also insist that your supervision of the work on the ship be done in a certain manner I shall prescribe. All items of work will be carried out in alphabetical order.
Alphabetical order, sir?
Precisely. Starting with A and carrying through to Z.